My friends, there is a secret law, hidden in plain sight, yet overlooked by many. It is the law of the spoken word, the law that responds not to your fears, not to your doubts, but to your voice when it speaks with faith. For the universe listens carefully, leaning in to hear the words you speak about money, wealth, and abundance. When you speak money into your life, you are not begging, you are not pleading, you are commanding in alignment with divine order. Words are not idle sounds, they are instruments of creation. With every declaration, you are planting seeds in the invisible, and those seeds must break forth in visible form. The reason so many live in lack is simple: they speak lack. They rehearse poverty with their words. They declare shortage with their complaints. They affirm, "I can't afford it." And the universe echoes back, "So it is." But when you shift your speech, when you say, "Money flows to me in rivers of abundance," when you dare to proclaim, "I am a magnet for wealth and opportunity," you summon prosperity as surely as a shepherd calls his flock. Do not underestimate the power of your own tongue. Faith is the unseen currency that guarantees the arrival of that which you call. Words without faith are like checks without funds. They bounce back empty. But words charged with faith are unstoppable. They travel through unseen currents, arranging circumstances, moving people, and attracting resources until your spoken decree becomes your living reality. Speak with authority, not timidly, not as though you hope it may work. Speak as though it must obey. When you speak, let every syllable be wrapped in certainty. Say, "Money, come forth. Abundance, reveal yourself. Prosperity, find me now." And you will find that money recognizes the sound of your confidence and rushes to meet you. But speaking is not enough. You must also see it in your inner vision. Imagine the life abundance brings. Feel the texture of wealth in your soul. Let gratitude flood your heart as though it is already done, for gratitude multiplies the call. When you thank in advance, you send forth a trumpet blast into the heavens, and the answer comes with haste. Be consistent. Let wealth be the song upon your lips each morning and each night. Speak until your atmosphere is charged with money energy, until your very presence whispers prosperity. The more faithfully you call it, the stronger the magnet you become. And remember, this law does not work for selfish greed. It works in harmony with higher order. The wealth you call must align with good, with growth, with rightful use. When you call money with clean hands and pure intent, no force can stop it from flowing to you. My friends, many have proved this law. They have called money in times of desperation, and it appeared. They have spoken abundance when the cupboards were bare, and the supply came in ways too marvelous to explain. What happened for them can happen for you, so I say unto you, stop speaking lack, stop rehearsing shortage, open your mouth and declare, with faith and authority, the wealth that belongs to you. Speak money into your life, and watch how quickly the invisible becomes visible. For the law is sure, and your words are the key. Words as creative power is one of the most profound truths that governs the life of every individual. Every syllable, every sound, every utterance carries within it the seeds of creation. Words are not idle. They are not empty vibrations passing through the air. They are alive, filled with energy, charged with intention, and destined to bring forth results in the visible world. To understand this is to hold the key to transforming life from limitation to abundance, from confusion to clarity, from scarcity to overflowing wealth. When a person speaks, they are shaping the atmosphere around them. Words go forth and weave patterns, attracting circumstances, opportunities, and even people that match the energy behind those words. It is no wonder that ancient teachings have emphasized the power of the tongue. A blessing spoken has the ability to lift, to heal, to create an open pathway for good to rush in. A curse, whether spoken against oneself or others, sets in motion forces that bring struggle and resistance. The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who understand this truth know that every phrase should be chosen with care. Money, prosperity, and wealth are no different. They too respond to the voice. When someone continually declares that they are broke, that they never have enough, that life is hard, they are unknowingly programming their experience with those very words. The universe, impartial and obedient, simply reflects back the decree. But when the individual awakens to the fact that words hold creative force, they begin to speak differently. They say, "I am abundant, money flows to me in perfect ways, opportunities are drawn to me effortlessly, I live in wealth and prosperity under grace." Those words, infused with belief, become blueprints. They instruct unseen forces to assemble conditions where abundance must appear. Words are like seeds sown into the soil of consciousness. Once planted, they begin to germinate in the unseen. At first, there may appear to be no change, no visible difference. But beneath the surface, the power is working, drawing nourishment, breaking through resistance, pushing upward to take form. The wise one does not cancel their harvest by digging up the seed with doubt-filled words. They guard their speech, they affirm again and again, until the manifestation breaks through the soil of the visible world. The energy behind words is amplified by faith. It is not enough to merely repeat phrases mechanically. Words spoken without conviction carry little power, but words spoken with authority, with certainty, with unwavering trust in their fulfillment, carry a vibrational frequency that cannot be denied. They cut through doubt, they override fear, and they call forth the very thing spoken. This is why it is said that words are commands to the subconscious and signals to the universe. They instruct both the inner and outer worlds to conform to the picture declared. Every great shift in history, every revolution, every movement of progress began with words. Declarations, affirmations, and bold proclamations reshaped societies and awakened individuals to new possibilities. If words can move nations, how much more can they move the details of a single life? To speak abundance is to align with universal law, to call into reality the prosperity that is your rightful inheritance. There is also a mystical element to words. Each word carries a vibration, a frequency that resonates with specific forces. Words of love, gratitude, and blessing attract harmony and provision. Words of fear, resentment, and complaint magnetize struggle and lack. This law cannot be bypassed. It functions with perfect precision. Those who master their speech master their destiny. They know that the lips are instruments of creation, and the voice is the channel through which unseen supply becomes visible. Therefore, to treat words as casual, careless, or meaningless is to misuse one of the greatest powers given to humankind. Every declaration should be intentional. To speak abundance, health, joy, and success is to sow seeds of divine prosperity into the soil of life. The more one speaks with conviction, the more one feels the reality of what is spoken, and the more rapidly it comes into form. Words as creative power is not a poetic idea. It is a living, breathing law, waiting for you to use it with wisdom and faith. Speak abundance and you will live abundance, for your words are the architects of your world. The law of command is one of the most powerful yet misunderstood principles of life. To command is not to plead, beg, or wish for something. To command is to speak with authority, to give direction to unseen forces, to declare with certainty what must be. The universe is structured to respond to words of command, because command assumes alignment with the higher order of truth. When one speaks in this way, creation bends to the sound of the voice, circumstances rearrange, doors open, and money, opportunities, and provision rush in as faithful servants answering the call. Many people live without realizing that they are constantly commanding. Every time they speak words of limitation, every time they declare that life is unfair, every time they say they cannot afford something, they are issuing commands to the invisible, and the invisible obeys. The law does not differentiate between positive and negative words. It simply executes what is declared with conviction. When someone says, "I never get a break," they are commanding the law to bring more struggle. When another says, "Money flows to me with ease," they are commanding the law to arrange circumstances in their favor. The power of command is neutral, but it becomes miraculous in the hands of the awakened. To command requires authority, and authority is born out of faith. Pleading comes from a place of fear or doubt, as though supply may or may not come. But command comes from the certainty that abundance is already present in the unseen and must reveal itself in the visible. Just as a general issues orders with no hesitation, knowing his army will move at once, so must an individual command wealth, opportunity, and blessing. There is no room for timidity in the law of command. The moment doubt enters, the authority is weakened and the command loses its edge. The subconscious mind is the first field where command takes root. When you declare, "I am wealthy, I am prosperous, I am a magnet for money," the subconscious accepts the order as fact and begins to arrange your attitudes, your behaviors, and your outer conditions in harmony with those words. The law of command is not only cosmic, it is deeply personal. It reshapes the inner self first, and the outer world then reflects the new command. You will think differently, notice opportunities that once passed you by, and carry yourself with confidence that attracts prosperity. But the law does not end within the mind. It extends to the universe itself. The spoken word, especially when filled with conviction, sends forth a vibration that travels through the unseen, calling to the resources that match its frequency. To say, "Money comes to me now," with authority, is to send out a signal that cannot return void. It must bring back circumstances, ideas, and encounters that align with the command. This is why those who know the law of command live lives that seem miraculous. They do not wait for things to happen. They direct them into being. Command also requires clarity. A general does not issue vague orders. He is specific. In the same way, your commands must carry focus. If you say, "I wish life would get better," the law has nothing definite to act upon. But when you say, "I command financial increase," "I command open doors," "I command money to appear for this need," the law has a clear instruction. The clearer the command, the faster the response. Vague words yield vague results. Precise commands yield precise manifestations. The law of command also functions best when aligned with divine order. To command something harmful, greedy, or unjust is to command against the flow of universal law, and resistance will be the only fruit. But when your command is rooted in good, in rightful use, and in harmony with the greater whole, nothing can stop its fulfillment. Money commanded for purpose, wealth commanded for service, prosperity commanded for rightful living, will flow with unstoppable ease. The law is not to be misused for selfish grasping, but honored as a sacred privilege of co-creation. The lives of many testify to this principle. Those who were once bound by poverty spoke with authority, declared their freedom, commanded money to come, and watched as supply appeared through unexpected channels. They did not plead, they did not hope, they spoke as those who already possessed the thing they sought, and the universe, ever faithful, obeyed. To live under the law of command is to live as a master of circumstance rather than a victim of chance. It is to understand that words are not idle, that speech is not powerless, but that every declaration sets in motion a chain of unseen activity. The one who speaks with authority who commands with faith, will find that life itself bends in obedience, and that money, opportunities, and abundance arrive as loyal servants responding to their rightful call. Breaking the silence of lack begins with an awakening to the truth that every complaint, every fearful utterance, every word of worry spoken about money is a reinforcement of poverty. Many people believe they are silent about their financial struggles, but their silence is filled with unspoken thoughts, heavy sighs, and hidden doubts. This unexpressed energy leaks into their words in subtle ways, and before they know it, their conversations are saturated with phrases like "I can't afford it," "I never have enough," or "things are always hard for me." Such words, spoken in the rhythm of daily life, create an echo that the universe faithfully returns. Lack, therefore, is not simply a condition of empty pockets. It is a condition of speech and thought. To break the silence of lack is to replace those hidden murmurs with declarations of abundance that reprogram the atmosphere around you. The silence of lack is deceptive. It is not always loud with outward complaints. Sometimes it shows up in hesitant speech, in the refusal to speak wealth for fear of being disappointed. It shows up in modest hopes, in cautious phrases like "I just want enough to get by," or "I don't need much, only a little." Yet every such phrase, even if it seems humble, is rooted in a consciousness of shortage, and shortage multiplies when it is given voice. Breaking the silence of lack means daring to replace these timid phrases with bold declarations. I am wealthy, I am abundant, I am overflowing with prosperity. It means silencing the old language of fear and speaking a new language of faith. For too long, many have allowed their conversations to become rehearsals of limitation. They gather with friends and speak of rising costs, shrinking opportunities, difficult economies, and endless bills. They trade stories of hardship as though comparing wounds in a battlefield, and with each story, they deepen the grooves of lack in their consciousness. To break this cycle is not merely to stop speaking negatively. It is to actively declare the opposite. It is to say, money finds me in miraculous ways, even when your wallet is empty. It is to affirm, I am connected to infinite supply, even when your bank account says otherwise. In this way, your words become tools that dig you out of the silence of lack and plant you in the soil of abundance. The power of breaking this silence lies in the courage to contradict appearances. Lack has a voice, but it is often the loudest when circumstances seem darkest. Bills, debts, and obligations all seem to speak their demands at once, pressuring the mind to bow to their evidence. Yet the individual who understands spiritual law knows that appearances are temporary shadows. They refuse to give them authority by repeating them with their lips. Instead, they choose to speak words of supply, provision, and plenty, even while walking through the desert of need. And it is these words, spoken in defiance of visible lack, that crack open the heavens and call forth new opportunities. Breaking the silence of lack also requires vigilance. It is not enough to declare abundance once or twice, and then slip back into old habits of speech. Every word counts. Every declaration creates ripples in the unseen. To truly uproot lack, one must cultivate a discipline of speech, watching every phrase, catching every word of fear before it escapes, and replacing it with words of power. Over time, this discipline transforms the atmosphere of the mind, and lack loses its grip because it no longer has a voice through which to express itself. Gratitude is another key in this breaking process. When the lips speak words of thanksgiving, even for small or unseen blessings, the silence of lack is shattered. Gratitude focuses attention on what is present rather than what is missing. It magnifies the sense of provision and calls forth more. To say, I am grateful for the money that flows to me now, even before it arrives, is to declare faith in advance, and faith is the antidote to lack. The testimony of those who have overcome financial struggles often reveals the same truth. The turning point came when they stopped rehearsing their difficulties and began speaking differently. They stopped telling the story of "I can't" and began declaring "I can." They stopped affirming "I never have enough" and began proclaiming "I always have more than enough." As their words shifted, so did their lives, because the universe could no longer echo lack. It was compelled to echo abundance. To break the silence of lack, therefore, is not simply to mute negative speech. It is to awaken to the power of words and to wield them as instruments of creation. It is to declare boldly, consistently, and gratefully that abundance is present, supply is flowing, and wealth is your rightful inheritance. Once spoken with conviction, these words dismantle the prison of lack and open the gates to prosperity. Faith, as the currency of spirit, is the unseen wealth that purchases every blessing, every breakthrough, every demonstration of abundance that appears in the visible world. Just as money functions in the material realm as a medium of exchange, faith functions in the spiritual realm as the key that unlocks supply. You cannot hold it in your hands, but you can feel its presence in your heart. You cannot deposit it in a bank, but when it is alive within you, it draws resources, people, and opportunities as surely as a magnet pulls iron. Faith is the true capital of the soul, and without it, the spoken word becomes a hollow echo, lacking the authority to manifest. Faith is not wishful thinking, nor is it blind hope. It is certainty rooted in the unseen, confidence in what cannot yet be touched with the senses. When one operates with faith, they know that the invisible is more powerful than the visible, for all things seen were first born in the realm of the unseen. Faith declares wealth while the bank account is empty. Faith proclaims healing while the body feels weak. Faith affirms success while failure seems to loom. It does not wait for evidence before speaking. It speaks, and the evidence appears. This is why faith is the true currency of spirit. It spends before it sees and always brings the return. Consider the way a person uses money. They exchange it with trust that what they need will be given in return. When they hand over currency at a store, they do not question whether they will receive the goods. They know the exchange will be honored. Faith operates the same way in the higher order. When you spend faith by speaking words of power, by acting as though abundance is already yours, the law of the universe honors the exchange and delivers the substance of what you have believed. The greater your faith, the greater your purchasing power in the unseen. Faith also carries a vibration that charges words with creative force. Without faith, affirmations are like unsigned checks. They may look impressive, but they carry no authority to be cashed. With faith, however, every declaration is alive. When you say, "Money flows to me now," with faith, those words become carriers of energy, rushing forth to align circumstances in your favor. When you affirm, "I am divinely provided for," with faith, you set in motion currents that bring forth unexpected channels of supply. Faith turns words into commands, and commands into manifestations. The absence of faith is often the true source of lack. People may repeat positive words, but if beneath the surface they are filled with fear, doubt, or disbelief, the inner contradiction cancels their decree. They may say, "I am prosperous," but secretly think, "I don't believe this will ever work for me." In this way, they spend counterfeit currency, and the law cannot honor it. But when one uproots doubt, even in the smallest measure, and dares to believe, mountains move, obstacles vanish, and doors swing open. For it is written in the fabric of creation that even faith the size of a mustard seed contains the power to command the impossible. Faith also demands persistence. Just as one continues to use money to meet their needs day by day, faith must be continually exercised. It is not a one-time act but a way of living. Every day presents opportunities to spend faith, to declare abundance in the face of bills, to affirm health in the face of pain, to speak joy in the presence of sorrow. Each time faith is used, it grows stronger, just as muscles strengthen with exercise. Over time, faith becomes unshakable, a treasury of spiritual wealth that no crisis can bankrupt. Gratitude fuels this currency. When you give thanks in advance for what you have not yet seen, you multiply the value of your faith. Gratitude signals that you already consider the exchange complete, that you trust the invisible has already delivered. This creates a powerful magnetism, accelerating the arrival of the very thing you are believing for. Faith without gratitude is strong, but faith with gratitude is unstoppable. The testimony of countless lives reveals that faith is never wasted. Those who have dared to believe against all odds, who have spoken prosperity when lack was all around them, who have thanked for blessings before they appeared, have seen the miraculous unfold. Their faith purchased opportunities, provision, and wealth that no human reasoning could explain. It is the same for all who will dare to use this currency. Faith, as the currency of spirit, is available to every soul. It is not reserved for the few. It is the inheritance of all. To believe is to spend it. To declare with conviction is to invest it. To persist in gratitude is to multiply it. And as surely as money buys bread in the market, faith buys miracles in the unseen. When you learn to live by this law, you will never fear lack again, for you will carry within you the true wealth that calls all other wealth into being. The voice of authority is the sound that creation recognizes and responds to without hesitation. It is not the loudest voice in the room, nor is it necessarily forceful in volume, but it carries a vibration of certainty that penetrates both the subconscious mind and the unseen realms. Authority in speech does not come from ego or arrogance, but from alignment with truth. When a person speaks with authority, it is as though their words are infused with a command that cannot be resisted. The invisible forces of life move to obey. Circumstances adjust, and supply is summoned because authority carries weight far beyond mere sound. Most people speak from doubt, fear, or uncertainty, and though they may repeat affirmations, their words lack power because they are spoken timidly, as if asking rather than declaring. The universe does not respond to hesitation. It responds to authority. Authority speaks as though the matter is already settled, as though the invisible has already delivered, as though the command is law. When someone declares, "I am wealthy, abundance is mine, money comes to me with ease," with the voice of authority, there is no question, no wavering, no plea. There is only certainty, and this certainty is what gives the words their magnetic force. Authority is born of faith. Without faith, words are little more than empty sounds, but when faith fills the heart, the tone shifts. Authority is that inner knowing expressed outwardly. It is the difference between a child whispering a wish and a king issuing a decree. A decree is final, unquestionable, and carries with it the expectation of fulfillment. When you speak with authority, your words become decrees, and the world is compelled to arrange itself in obedience. The subconscious mind also recognizes authority. It does not respond to weak suggestions, but it obeys strong commands. When you speak to yourself with authority, saying, "I live in abundance, I attract wealth, I am a channel of prosperity," your subconscious receives those words as law and begins to shape your thoughts, behaviors, and attitudes accordingly. Suddenly, you notice opportunities where before you saw none. You carry yourself with confidence, and this confidence draws favorable conditions to you. Authority does not only command the outer world, it commands the inner one as well, reshaping it to align with the decree. Authority in speech is also deeply connected to conviction. Conviction is the fire that makes words alive. A person who has conviction does not need to convince others. They simply know. That knowing gives their words a weight that others feel, even if nothing is explained. When you declare prosperity with conviction, it is as though you release a vibration that cannot be denied. The words travel into the atmosphere, attracting money, opportunities, and blessings, as if they were iron filings pulled to a magnet. It is important to recognize that authority does not come from desperation. Many people cry out in need, hoping their words will be heard, but need does not carry authority. Authority comes from alignment with the higher law, from the recognition that abundance is already present in the unseen and only needs to be called forth. When you speak from this recognition, there is no begging, no pleading, only calm assurance. This assurance is the essence of authority, and it is this essence that causes manifestation. Authority also demands consistency. A single decree may open the door, but repeated decrees keep it open and establish the flow. When you continually speak with authority, declaring abundance day by day, your voice becomes a constant channel of creation. The repetition strengthens the decree, and the results compound. Each declaration builds upon the last until your life is filled with visible evidence of the words you have spoken. The voice of authority is also a voice of alignment. It does not demand what is outside of divine order. It commands what is already rightful, good, and in harmony with universal law. To speak with authority for selfish greed is to misuse the power, and such misuse weakens the vibration. But when you speak with authority for prosperity that blesses, for wealth that uplifts, for money that serves a higher purpose, the universe rushes to comply. Authority aligned with divine intent is irresistible. Countless stories prove this truth. People have found themselves in dire situations, yet when they stood firm, lifted their voice, and declared with authority that supply must appear, it came, sometimes in ways beyond imagination. Authority is not bound by logic. It works through channels both seen and unseen. What matters is the certainty behind the words spoken. The voice of authority is within every individual. It is not reserved for a chosen few. It awakens the moment you decide to stop speaking from fear and begin speaking from faith. It is the moment you choose to replace timid requests with bold decrees. It is the moment you stop hoping and start knowing. Once awakened, this voice transforms your life because everything in creation listens to authority. When you speak with it, your words no longer fall empty. They become commands that shape reality. This is the true power of the voice of authority. It does not merely describe the world, it creates it. The imagination as a partner is one of the greatest allies in the process of creating wealth, abundance, and success. Imagination is not a mere pastime of idle fancy. It is the workshop of the mind where reality is first designed before it appears in visible form. Every building, every invention, every fortune began in the realm of imagination before it became tangible. To dismiss imagination as child's play is to overlook the very tool given to humanity to shape destiny. When you learn to use imagination as your faithful partner, you gain the ability to create conditions that align with your highest desires. Imagination and words work hand in hand. Words are the commands, the decrees, but imagination supplies the picture, the living image that gives words substance. When you speak prosperity yet cannot imagine yourself living abundantly, your words fall flat, lacking the visual blueprint needed to direct the unseen forces. But when you not only speak abundance, but also picture yourself surrounded by it, seeing it, feeling it, experiencing it within the two powers combine, and manifestation quickens. Imagination dresses the words with form, and the universe responds by bringing the picture into reality. Consider how naturally the mind uses imagination in negative ways. A person may worry about bills, and in their imagination, they see themselves unable to pay. They feel the fear of lack. They replay scenarios of struggle. These inner pictures feed their words, and soon they say, "I never have enough. I am always behind. The imagination has partnered with lack, and the words reinforce it, but the same principle can be reversed. When one deliberately paints mental pictures of wealth, seeing themselves paying bills with ease, living in prosperity, enjoying the freedom of financial abundance, the words they speak take on new life. I am wealthy, I always have more than enough, money flows to me easily. The imagination has partnered with abundance, and the spoken word carries creative authority. The subconscious mind is deeply moved by imagery. It responds not only to what you say, but to what you vividly picture. To imagine yourself living in abundance is to send a direct instruction to the subconscious that this is your reality. The subconscious then directs your actions, attitudes, and even the opportunities you attract toward fulfilling that vision. This is why imagination is so vital. It trains the inner world to expect prosperity, and expectation magnetizes supply. Imagination also awakens emotion, and emotion is the fuel of manifestation. When you imagine yourself holding the check, receiving the promotion, living in the home of your dreams, or walking in financial freedom, you stir feelings of joy, excitement, gratitude, and confidence. These emotions charge your words with power, making them irresistible to the law of attraction. A dry affirmation spoken without feeling has little force, but an affirmation spoken while seeing and feeling the picture within carries immeasurable energy. The imagination, therefore, acts as the spark that sets the creative process ablaze. To work with imagination as a partner requires practice. It is easy for the mind to wander into doubt, fear, or past disappointments. But with discipline, you can train the imagination to dwell only on images of abundance and success. Even a few minutes each day of vividly picturing wealth and prosperity creates powerful momentum. Over time, this practice becomes second nature, and your imagination becomes a constant companion, painting images of prosperity that your words reinforce. Great innovators, leaders, and creators have always relied on imagination. They dared to see what did not yet exist and spoke it into reality. You too hold this power. Your imagination can show you pathways you could never reason out, solutions you could never calculate, and opportunities you could never predict. It is the bridge between the invisible and the visible, the inner and the outer. When imagination and faith combine, nothing is impossible. To imagine prosperity while doubting it weakens the picture. But to imagine prosperity while believing it is already yours charges the image with certainty. This is why imagination must be guided by faith. Faith anchors the picture in truth, and imagination makes it vivid and alive. Together, they form an unstoppable creative partnership that calls money, abundance, and success into your life. The imagination as a partner is not optional if you wish to live abundantly. It is your divine gift, your creative faculty, your personal canvas on which you design your future. Use it wisely, feed it pictures of prosperity, link it with words of power, and fuel it with faith. In doing so, you transform imagination from idle daydreaming into a living force that works beside you every day, shaping your reality into the image of your highest vision. Gratitude amplifies the call because it is the vibration that signals the universe you are already in possession of what you seek. Gratitude is more than polite words spoken when receiving something. It is a deep acknowledgement that abundance already surrounds you. It shifts the focus away from lack and places it firmly on supply, turning your attention from what is missing to what is present. When you give thanks, you align yourself with the frequency of increase, and the law of life responds by multiplying what you are thankful for. Gratitude is not just appreciation for blessings already seen. It is also the faith-filled recognition of blessings that are on their way. When a person prays for prosperity without gratitude, the tone of the prayer may carry a hidden vibration of lack. It may sound like pleading or desperation, which only reinforces the idea that the thing is absent. But when you pray or affirm with gratitude, your words change. Instead of saying, "I need money," you begin to declare, "I am so thankful for the wealth that flows to me now." The vibration of thanksgiving tells the unseen realm that the matter is already settled, and what you affirm is released into manifestation with greater speed. Gratitude gives wings to words. Consider the difference between two people facing the same situation of financial difficulty. One complains, frets, and repeats the story of how nothing works out, focusing on the insufficiency. The other acknowledges the challenge, but immediately begins to give thanks for every small provision, every unexpected gift, every opportunity, and every lesson. One multiplies lack, while the other multiplies supply. Gratitude acts as a magnet. It draws more of the good into the life of the one who consistently expresses it. By giving thanks for even the smallest coin, you open the door for greater sums to appear. Gratitude changes the way you speak. Words spoken without gratitude may sound hollow or forced, but words rooted in thanksgiving carry life, joy, and expectancy. Saying, "I am wealthy," while feeling ungrateful keeps the statement dry. But saying, "I am wealthy, and I am so thankful for the abundance already around me," breathes power into the affirmation. Gratitude amplifies the energy behind the declaration, giving it more force in the invisible realm. Your words become charged with sincerity, and sincerity is what activates universal law. Gratitude also reprograms the imagination. When you are thankful, your inner pictures naturally turn toward increase. You begin to see yourself blessed, supported, and supplied in ways you could not see before. Gratitude paints the canvas of the mind with images of fulfillment, and those images become the mold through which abundance pours. Without gratitude, imagination easily slips into pictures of worry, debt, and insufficiency, but with gratitude, imagination shines with visions of overflowing supply, reinforcing your spoken affirmations with powerful pictures. Gratitude is also a healer of emotions. Fear and worry cannot live in the same heart that is truly grateful. When you give thanks, your energy lifts, your spirit feels lighter, and your faith becomes stronger. The emotional tone of gratitude is joy, and joy itself is creative. Joy attracts opportunities, people, and resources into your orbit. A grateful person is magnetic because their energy radiates assurance and expectancy. People, situations, and even unseen forces are drawn to that vibration, multiplying good in ways that cannot be calculated. There is also a sacred humility in gratitude, for it recognizes that you are not the sole source of your good. It acknowledges the divine supply flowing through countless channels, reminding you that provision is endless and abundant. Gratitude places you in harmony with this infinite supply. The proud heart that takes blessings for granted or demands them without acknowledgement closes itself off from increase, but the grateful heart opens wider and wider, allowing the flow of abundance to become ever greater. Gratitude should be practiced daily, not only when visible blessings arrive. Giving thanks before the manifestation appears is the greatest demonstration of faith. When you say, "I am thankful for the wealth that is already mine," even when your bank account appears empty, you are calling forth substance from the unseen. You are declaring that you trust the law of life to fulfill your words. This form of gratitude carries tremendous power because it affirms what is true in spirit, and spirit always precedes material form. Gratitude amplifies the call because it raises your voice above the noise of fear, lack, and doubt. It tunes your energy to the frequency of abundance, making every word you speak more potent, every thought more fertile, and every vision more vivid. It is the force that transforms routine affirmations into powerful decrees, lifting your consciousness into alignment with divine supply. With gratitude as your companion, you do not merely ask for wealth, you claim it with thanksgiving, and in doing so, you open the way for riches, opportunities, and blessings to flood your life in overflowing measure. Consistency creates magnetic power because what you do repeatedly shapes the atmosphere around you, forms the beliefs within you, and draws the conditions that match your persistent vibration. It is not the scattered thought, the occasional affirmation, or the once-in-a-while declaration that moves the universe. It is the steady, rhythmic, unwavering repetition of truth, spoken and lived, that builds an unshakable force. Just as the river carves valleys and the tide reshapes the shore, consistency sculpts reality, leaving its undeniable mark on both the unseen and the seen. When a person speaks words of abundance once and then falls back into old patterns of fear, doubt, and complaint, the energy of their words is diluted. But when affirmations of prosperity, faith, and supply are spoken daily, when the same vision is held with unwavering persistence, the words gather momentum. They become like waves, growing stronger with every repetition, until they carry enough power to crash through every barrier of limitation. Consistency charges the atmosphere with expectancy, and expectancy is the fertile soil where manifestation takes root. The subconscious mind is not impressed by an occasional burst of inspiration. It is trained and transformed through repetition. Every time you affirm, "I am wealthy, I am supplied, I am a magnet for money," you impress this truth upon your inner mind. At first it may resist, reminding you of your present circumstances, whispering stories of lack and impossibility. But if you remain consistent, day after day, those whispers lose their power. The subconscious begins to yield, and the new story takes root. Soon it becomes automatic, and your thoughts, actions, and choices align with the magnetic force you have created through your consistency. Consistency also communicates certainty to the unseen world. To affirm a truth one day and doubt it the next is to send mixed signals. But to affirm with steady persistence is to declare, "I know this is mine, and nothing can shake my faith." The law responds to certainty. The universe bends to the will of the consistent, for consistency is proof of faith. It says you believe so strongly in your outcome that you refuse to stop speaking it, imagining it, and preparing for it. This unshakable stance makes your words magnetic, and what you consistently affirm is drawn into your life with irresistible force. Think of the sun. It rises each day without fail, pouring light and warmth upon the earth. Because of its consistency, life flourishes. Your words, spoken consistently, act in the same way. They shine daily upon the soil of your subconscious, nurturing the seeds of prosperity until they break through the surface and bear fruit. Just as no single sunrise brings the harvest, but the accumulation of many, so no single affirmation creates wealth, but the steady accumulation of many declarations, spoken in faith, opens the floodgates of abundance. Consistency also strengthens discipline. When you commit to speaking, visualizing, and believing every day, regardless of appearances, you build inner strength. You no longer waver when temporary setbacks appear, for you know your consistent energy will override them. This discipline becomes part of your character, and your very presence begins to radiate magnetic power. People sense your certainty, opportunities gravitate toward you, and circumstances begin to align with the vibration you have maintained. Even in the natural world, magnetism is built through consistent energy. A piece of iron, when stroked again and again in the same direction with a magnet, becomes magnetized itself. But if you stroke it once and stop, nothing happens. The same is true of your words and thoughts. Each consistent repetition aligns the particles of your inner being with the frequency of wealth, until you, too, become a living magnet that attracts riches, opportunities, and success. Consistency transforms faith into demonstration. It takes invisible truth and anchors it into daily reality. By showing up each day in thought, word, and action, you weave an energetic field around yourself that cannot be ignored. Doubt may visit, appearances may contradict, but consistency outlasts them all. Like water dripping on stone, it eventually carves its way through, leaving the mark of prosperity upon your life. Consistency creates magnetic power because it proves unwavering belief, impresses the subconscious, commands the universe, and radiates authority. It is the invisible current that turns weak declarations into irresistible decrees. When you practice consistency in your affirmations, your gratitude, your visualizations, and your actions, you gather the kind of power that cannot be denied. Day by day, moment by moment, your words and thoughts accumulate force, and that force draws to you every form of abundance. Consistency turns the ordinary into the extraordinary, the unseen into the seen, and the desired into the lived reality. Alignment with higher order is the secret key that unlocks the flow of prosperity, peace, and fulfillment in life. To align means to come into harmony with a greater pattern, to bring one's thoughts, words, and actions into agreement with the universal laws that govern all creation. When you are aligned, life seems to move with ease, doors open without struggle, and opportunities present themselves naturally. Misalignment, however, brings resistance, chaos, and lack, because it is the attempt to live outside of the divine rhythm. Prosperity is not created by force. It is revealed when you step into harmony with the higher order that already sustains all things. There is an invisible structure that underlies the visible world, a divine intelligence that arranges planets, causes seasons to shift, and directs the growth of every seed into the exact form it was designed to be. This higher order is flawless. The stars do not collide, the ocean tides do not forget their rhythm, and the sun never fails to rise. Abundance flows freely in nature because it operates in perfect alignment with higher order. When you too bring your life into that same rhythm, thinking thoughts of faith instead of fear, speaking words of truth instead of doubt, taking actions that reflect abundance instead of lack, you join the current of divine order, and that current carries you into prosperity. Alignment is not about bending the universe to your will. It is about bending your will into harmony with the universe. The higher order has already decreed abundance, health, joy, and fulfillment as the rightful inheritance of all. But when the mind clings to worry, fear, or limitation, it turns away from that decree. To realign is to release resistance and return to trust, to declare, I am one with the order of abundance, and I walk in harmony with it. In that moment, the crooked path becomes straight, and confusion gives way to clarity. Words play a powerful role in alignment. Every word you speak is either in harmony with higher order or in discord with it. When you speak words of lack, complaining about what is missing, you create disharmony which echoes back into your life. But when you speak words of faith and gratitude, you bring yourself into alignment, and life reflects that harmony by multiplying blessings. To say, I am guided, supplied, and prospered, is to declare your union with divine order. The law then rearranges circumstances to fulfill that truth. Imagination, too, becomes a tool of alignment when used rightly. When you imagine yourself thriving, supported, and successful, you are picturing what already exists in higher order, for in the unseen realm, abundance is already complete. By holding that image, you call it into form. But when you imagine fear, failure, or insufficiency, you are imagining a world that does not exist in higher order, and in doing so, you create resistance. The key is to discipline imagination to mirror the divine pattern, not the illusions of fear. Faith is the bridge that secures alignment. To live in faith is to know that the higher order never fails, even when appearances seem contrary. Faith says, I trust the invisible design more than I fear the visible challenge. It is this trust that steadies the heart and allows the flow of abundance to continue uninterrupted. Faith lifts you above temporary storms and keeps you anchored in the truth that order always prevails and supply always comes. Action is another expression of alignment. To act in fear is to resist the flow. To act in faith is to cooperate with it. When you take steps that reflect prosperity, even if the evidence has not yet appeared, you demonstrate trust in the higher order, and your actions become channels for abundance to manifest. Small, consistent actions rooted in faith become powerful when aligned with universal law. Gratitude is the song of alignment. When you give thanks, you recognize that the higher order is already providing for you. Gratitude tunes your vibration to the frequency of abundance, making you a match for greater blessings. It is impossible to be truly grateful and misaligned at the same time, for gratitude instantly restores harmony. Alignment with higher order is not something you create. It is something you remember. You are born into this order, and prosperity is your natural state. Every time you release fear, choose faith, speak truth, and act with confidence, you are stepping back into the current of divine harmony. In that current, struggle ceases, lack disappears, and abundance flows freely. To live in alignment is to live in rhythm with the universe itself, and in that rhythm, every need is met, every desire fulfilled, and every word of faith answered. The testimony of transformation is the living proof that faith, words, and alignment with divine law do not remain abstract ideas, but become visible realities in the life of the one who dares to believe. Transformation is the evidence that inner change produces outer change, that the unseen governs the seen, and that when the heart, mind, and tongue are united in truth, circumstances bend to reflect the new pattern. A testimony is not theory. It is the undeniable record of what has taken place. It carries weight because no one can argue with a life that has shifted from lack to abundance, from despair to joy, from defeat to victory. Every transformation begins with a word, a spark of truth received and spoken. The one who once said, "I am poor, I am weak, I am unlucky," learns to say instead, "I am supplied, I am strong, I am divinely guided." At first, these words may feel foreign, even foolish, because the outer world has not yet shifted. But words plant seeds, and with faith and persistence those seeds sprout. The testimony begins in the invisible, long before it is written in the visible. And when the change finally manifests, the power of the spoken word stands revealed. The testimony of transformation carries a light that cannot be hidden. Those who once saw you in struggle now see you prosper. Those who once heard you complain now hear you declare thanksgiving. Your very presence becomes a silent witness that something greater is at work. This does not only uplift you, but inspires others, for testimony is contagious. When one rises, others see that they too can rise. Transformation multiplies, because one proof sparks faith in another. The path of transformation is often marked by challenge. The soil of lack may resist the seed of abundance at first, and circumstances may even grow more difficult when you begin to change your words and thoughts. But this is only the old pattern losing its grip. Those who persevere, who continue to affirm truth in the face of contradiction, who continue to imagine abundance while surrounded by lack, eventually see the breakthrough. And when it comes, the testimony shines brighter because it is born from faith that would not yield to fear. Transformation also alters identity. A person once defined by struggle becomes someone defined by victory. They no longer speak from the voice of the victim, but from the authority of one who knows the law of life and has seen it work. Their words carry more weight, for they are not merely repeating teachings, but speaking from lived experience. Testimony gives authority to words, and authority makes those words magnetic, carrying power to awaken faith in others. The testimony of transformation is not limited to money or material gain. It can be the restoration of health, the healing of relationships, the lifting of depression into joy, or the discovery of purpose. In every case, it demonstrates the same principle. The inner shift precedes the outer shift. When the heart aligns with truth, when faith is spoken, when imagination paints the picture of abundance, the external world eventually mirrors it. Transformation becomes the natural outcome of living in harmony with divine law. Gratitude is always at the heart of testimony. The one who has been transformed cannot help but give thanks, not only for the visible blessings, but for the journey that forged faith, discipline, and trust. Gratitude seals the transformation, ensuring that it is not a temporary improvement but a lasting elevation. By giving thanks, you acknowledge the higher power at work, and this acknowledgement keeps you in harmony with continued increase. The power of testimony is also that it speaks louder than doubt. Even when the mind questions or the world mocks, no one can erase what has been lived. The transformed life stands as a monument to truth, a reminder that what is possible for one is possible for all. Testimony silences fear, for it says, "I have walked this path, I have seen the law work, and I know it is real." The testimony of transformation is the crown of faith. It is the evidence that words are not empty, that imagination is not fantasy, and that alignment with divine law produces tangible results. Each person has the power to create their own testimony, to become living proof that abundance, peace, and joy are not distant dreams, but present realities waiting to be called into being. And when that transformation comes, it does more than bless the individual. It sends a ripple of faith into the world, amplifying the call of truth for all who are ready to believe.